Good afternoon and welcome to another Select Stream. I'm Tess and I'm joined by my co-host and colleague Jig. And today we will be discussing finance going digital. We have a very special guest today, which is Mark Weeks-Pearson. He's director at Ashdown Hurrey Accountants. They're based in Hastings. So we're very grateful to have him here today. Hi, Mark. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
It'd be great if you could just give us a bit of a brief overview of who you are, what you do, and what you're going to talk about today.
Yeah, hi, everyone. As Tess says, I'm an accountant from Ashdown Hurrey in the Hastings office. So we're a firm with around 50 employees and general practitioners. So the fields that I probably focus on a little bit more than others are clients that are in construction and the trades. But I've also got quite a large number of clients that are professional services, for example. And they're based around the southeast, quite a lot in the Hastings and Bexhill area. But we have quite a large draw with London as well. As a firm, we've got experience across all areas with a payroll department as well. And we're kind of a one-stop shop for what we call cradle to grave accounting, which is a bit depressing.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah, sorry, that is really depressing, isn't it? So startups through to retirement, and we can offer tax advice and planning as well. So yeah, but today we won't be going into everything that we can do, and we'll be focusing a little bit on accounting going digital. So I think I can start my slideshow now.
Great.
It's the embarrassing bit where you see my IT skills.
Could you?
Yeah. Just need to share your. Yeah, there we go. There's always some little technical difficulties in every webinar we do. So, just makes us seem more human.
Yeah.
Which is always a good thing.
Can you see my screen, Tess and Jig?
We can. And I think Jig is just sharing it to everyone else. So we'll let you know. There we go.
Lovely. So making tax digital, MTD, is a term that came about, I would say probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we've done a few sort of real life presentations on this pre-COVID, and in particular 2 or 3 years ago when it first became something that our clients really needed to worry about. And to give you a bit of background, it is an HMRC initiative, and it's part of the government's plan to really make it easier for them to collect data, to be honest, on what our businesses are doing. And of course, with the more data they've got, the better they can assess what VAT liabilities are and what our tax liabilities are. So I think there's 3 main aims they've got with this. It's to make the whole system of reporting to HMRC more efficient, more effective, and easier, they hope, for taxpayers to get their taxes right. And I guess you could think about, if any of you are of the generation pre-computers or in the early days of computers, bookkeeping for even big businesses would have been done in ledgers, using paper. So lots of handwritten documents. And of course, I think when I started in the industry 20 or so years ago, Excel was more commonplace. So rather than writing things in large ledger books, we would type them up in Excel. So we're already taking some of the advantages that computers offered. And, for those of you that like the formulae, we know that Excel is a brilliant way of checking things add up, cross-cast, and everything is right. But HMRC are taking it one step further now, and I guess we've got technology to blame, and they would like everyone to be digital. And later on, I'll cover some of the packages that help us or help them achieve this goal. So it is already in place for many VAT registered businesses. So I expect a lot of you are already dealing with the filing requirements of MTD. It may be that yourself aren't actually dealing with the requirements, but you're passing your records to your accountant. So for example, we file a lot of VAT returns for our clients, And that's either using software that we share with them and they have access to, or using specialist software to enable the information to go to HMRC in a digital format. So up until 3 years ago, a lot of businesses would log on to the HMRC website, for example, and type in their VAT figures so that the taxman knew what was due. But now it's done by submissions through software. And the idea is what HMRC really want is full details of every single invoice and payment that makes up your VAT return. So in the past, and still at the moment, all they get is probably 7 figures, which is the sales figure, purchases, and the amount of VAT due on both. And they don't see every single transaction that makes that up. Now, their goal is for us to start submitting this information to them as well, which is quite a scary thought, because you can imagine that with all that data, they'll be able to tie up the entire economy. So, for example, if you're in construction and you're using a number of subcontractors, they will go on your VAT return potentially. Who you're invoicing, your customers, will go on your VAT return, and the dates of the invoices or the payments that are made will all be submitted to HMRC. So it won't take long before technology and their artificial intelligence will be able to check that if I'm putting something on my VAT return that's a purchase for my business, that it's also going on someone else's VAT return as a sale and as income. So you can see it really will hit the target, that it will make tax collection a lot more accurate and effective for the beloved taxman.
Sorry, Mark, what would the outcome be if they sort of see discrepancies then? Like who would they?
I think at the moment, to find those discrepancies, they have to launch an investigation or a VAT inquiry, and they're not always something to be scared of, but they sometimes just ask a business about certain aspects of their return. But often clients, sorry, not often, I don't want to scare people. Occasionally clients do get asked to provide all the details on their VAT returns. And I think sometimes that is because the taxman may have done a VAT inquiry or a visit on another business, and they might have seen certain transactions in their records, and perhaps they then want to check the suppliers and customers to see if they're there as well. But of course, with Making Tax Digital, once this information starts going into them online, they won't need to ask us for it. They will have it all to hand. So I imagine in the future, they will ask very targeted questions and probably say, why have you not got this on your VAT return? Because they see it in other places in the system. So, yeah, I think that's the long-term goal. I don't think it's coming in just yet to that amount of detail, but that's certainly where they want to go.
And how would that affect people that, don't pay VAT, like if you're sort of a sole trader or?
Yeah, so currently those businesses don't have to submit anything to the taxman until they do their tax return. So it's only the VAT registered ones that do the regular submissions, whether it's monthly or quarterly. I think for the ones that are not VAT registered, so it might just be a consultant that works at home, a website designer perhaps, they might have turnover of 70,000. HMRC are indicating they will want a mini profit and loss account sent in to them, and potentially start asking for tax payments sooner than they do now. So the current system means a lot of the self-employed pay their tax every January, sometimes a payment in July. But we can imagine that they might start asking for quarterly payments because they know what the taxpayers are actually making, rather than waiting for the end of year returns.
Okay.
No, it's a really big change, and I think other countries in Europe are already filing in this manner, so have very kind of live tax systems. And ours, I think, in the UK is still quite archaic. And I think it's probably because we're probably one of the oldest economies. History is not my expertise, but I would imagine that's why.
Okay.
So this is how you can do it. Cloud packages is one of the answers. Some of you may recognise some of these names. Excel, for example, has been around a while, and so has Sage in the bottom left. But Sage 1, QuickBooks, Free Agent and Xero, they all now offer products on the cloud, so you can log into the internet, pay a monthly subscription, and you will use these packages to send off your VAT returns, for example, during the year. Or if you're not VAT registered, we might assist you with sending in your profit and loss figures as and when MTD requires those. So I'm not sure, Tess, are you guys familiar with any of these? Do you have to help your clients with products like this?
I'm not sure if we necessarily help them with these elements, but of course we can always offer kind of advice and help if they get stuck with them. But I think most of the time our clients kind of would purchase these sorts of things separately. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jig.
Yeah, they would. We don't help with the purchasing, but we can help with stuff like integration between systems. Setting up certain elements, like you can integrate SharePoint into Sage.
Yeah, that's right.
So that they're kind of, then you're not having to do it multiple times, so that it sorts it all out for you.
Yeah, I think you're right. Some clients will use an invoicing system or have some kind of database that they use for their customers. And if they're entering everything in there and issuing sales invoices, it's then a waste of time if they're then having to enter those same invoices into their accounting software.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's a few clever. There's some amazing stuff going on in the market now with products that integrate with each other, and I'll cover those on the next page. These products on the screen, we deal with all of them and advise clients on all of them. I would say, in summary form, looking at the top left there, Free Agent, that's a product offered by NatWest now. So NatWest actually purchased Free Agent in the last, I think, 12 to 24 months. And NatWest provides that free with business accounts. It's a great little package, probably I would say from personal experience for the smaller business. So I've got quite a lot of IT contractors, for example, that use it. A few sort of retailers. It tends to be for the smaller one. Whereas if you're a larger business and you might have different divisions, so if you were, for example, I guess an IT business and you've got sales of products as well as offering maintenance and service contracts, something like Xero can be better because it enables divisional reporting and enables you to dig down into those figures a lot more. Sage is a well-known one in the market. I think they got left behind a bit when Xero came along, to be honest, and they've now launched their Sage 1 product, which is there online.
What's the difference between those two then?
Yeah, Sage actually, the one in the bottom left there, there's many versions of it. So one called Line 50, another one I think called Sage 200, 300. I think there's even a Sage with a bigger number. And major businesses use Sage. So some of your multinational companies, multi-million, probably multi-billion pound companies use actual Sage. And it was always very much, I think, one that you purchased the software, it was installed on your system. Mm-hmm. But a lot of our clients that were using that one in the past, there was too much functionality in it. So we've moved them to Sage 1. And Sage 1 is literally, it's probably only around £10 to £15 a month to use. Whereas the old-fashioned Sage, as we call it, that the big companies use can cost hundreds of pounds a year.
Okay, so a lot more accessible for a smaller, medium-sized business.
Yeah, and a lot more user-friendly as well. I think I often say to clients, if you can do internet shopping, you can probably manage to use Sage 1, use Xero, use Free Agent, use QuickBooks. So they're a lot easier. QuickBooks has been in the market and they often advertise a lot as well. Clients always say it's easy to use. I think it's easy to fix your mistakes. As accountants, we don't tend to like it so much. I think it enables clients to, if they're not so good on the bookkeeping, it enables them to try and fix too many things, and they can often make what we call sort of accounting errors. But yeah, there's some great products out there. So I think if anyone's ever got any questions about them, it's worth having a chat with your accountant. And to other business owners, some accountants will have a preference for certain products because it's what they're used to. So be careful not to be pushed into the direction that your accountant wants you to go. But something that works for you and your business is definitely worthwhile researching.
Okay.
Now, the next slide is how do you make the change? So it might be that you're still using a package like Sage or QuickBooks, the ones that you used to have to buy. So they used to, crikey, I think they used to arrive on a disc and you'd load it onto your machine.
Amazing.
Yeah, so but it still goes on. But we've been helping a lot of clients migrate from that kind of software onto the cloud. And Move My Books is just a brilliant. Well, I guess they're a software firm. I think it costs £60 and they will basically take your old data and move it into one of the modern day packages. So they move your supplier database, your customer database, sales invoices, all the transactions. And rather than I'm probably doing myself out of work here, rather than having your accountant help you transfer everything over, set it up correctly, you can probably work with your accountant, use Move My Books, and I'm not an expert on this, but one of my colleagues has done this before within a day, have everything moved over.
Wow.
So there's some great technology out there.
How long would that have taken in the past? Much longer than that.
You probably have paid your accountant a lot more money. Work out your opening positions and probably export data into Excel and then import it back into the new product. So this Move My Books, just literally you send a backup in, I think, and you just load a whole backup. It's almost seamless. So it doesn't need to be taxing, which is quite ironic, moving your software over. And then once you're over into the modern day packages, like the cloud packages, there's so many add-ons as well. And I've just listed a few of these on the screen. So if you're a business and you've got, for example, a plumbing business and you might have 20 plumbers out there, filling up their vans with fuel, perhaps they're buying parts, etc. from local suppliers. Receipt Bank is a great app which enables them to use their phones to scan the invoices in and receipts. And then that will just feed through to your accounting system if you're using Xero. So there's no need, classic builder sometimes might have a whole load of paper receipts on their dashboard. They can simply just electronically send them through using an app on their phone, throw the paper copy away.
Amazing. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Paperless.
Yep. It ticks all the boxes. Clockify is a package that will help record staff time. So probably whether you're an accountant, whether you're in construction, whether you're putting together websites, who knows, it enables your staff time to be recorded and of course then fed into the accounting system as well, so that if you're producing management accounts, you know where time's been spent and on what projects. HubDoc, I believe, is like Receipt Bank, and literally I think you can take an image of the invoice or have it electronically, and your software will extract the information off of the invoice, read it. So it will probably identify the supplier, take the amount, and post it into your system. So it's taking away the manual entry of things as well, which in theory can make good efficiencies, make your records more accurate and make them more timely, and probably save you money in not requiring such big accounts teams or bookkeepers, for example. What I would say is when the technology started developing over this last decade or two, there was always a worry that bookkeepers and accountants would find ourselves redundant. But I tend to find, our firm, we help a lot of clients and do bookkeeping too. We're just being asked to help them with higher level assistance now. So rather than paying us to enter invoices manually and dropping a big bag of records off to us, we just use our expertise now to get the job done quicker. So we actually find we're helping more and more clients, but we're just spending less time with each client.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it makes the work more challenging, but the younger generation definitely just take to this stuff like a duck to water. So I think I'm classing myself as the older generation now, unfortunately. And but no,
it's kind of like an interesting thing across all of technology, really, because we see all the time, ways to automate things are becoming more simplified, less expensive.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of this stuff with Microsoft Power Apps and like Power Automate. So these are all functions and features that probably would have cost hundreds of or thousands of pounds for a company to use in the past, whereas now they're becoming a lot more accessible, and it doesn't necessarily do people out of a job. It's just a different way of approaching things, making things streamlined, like you said.
It definitely, I think, the roles are changing, so you can't carry on as you were. I think probably for some period last century, bookkeepers did the same thing for many years, but it's just evolving so much now that I think it might have scared some people into retiring, to be honest, some accountants out there as well. But yeah, it's made all of these sort of services accessible to all businesses because they no longer cost a fortune.
Yeah.
So these add-ons, I'm not entirely sure of the cost, but these add-ons, you could probably have them all and you'd be paying less than £100 a month still.
Wow. So for even a smaller business, that's going to be kind of affordable.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, something like Xero or Sage or QuickBooks Online, like I said earlier, ranges from anything from £10 up to £30, and then some of these add-ons might be 10 or 15 a month. Chaser is another one that will chase your debts in for you. So it's an automated system. Send out emails, flag reminders to you of customers that are beyond their payment terms. So they pay for themselves is the key, I think. 100%.
Brilliant.
I'm not sure if that's a good point to just have a little breather and see if has there been any questions?
We don't have any questions at the moment, but if anyone's got any, please feel free to pop any in the Q&A box. Probably because I'm rabbiting on as we go through asking lots of questions, so hopefully I haven't stolen anyone's questions.
That's
that
all right.
Like to ask. But no, I think it's just it's a good example, all of those things, of how you can use technology to your advantage no matter what company size you are. And I mean, that part of our remit is to obviously help our clients and other businesses to try and utilize technology without having to spend an absolute fortune. There's lots of different applications and technologies that our clients have used or are using that we've kind of helped to develop for them. And like Jake mentioned, even just going on to like Microsoft 365 and in the introduction of Teams and SharePoint can have a huge and profound effect on a whole company, just from something as simple as that. And it sounds like these sorts of tools are quite similar. So, we are always encouraging our clients to move away from physical servers to go onto the cloud, because there's also that element of additional security as well.
Okay.
So I don't know if that comes into it as well with finance, the security element. I mean, you're not going to necessarily lose all your records or.
Yeah, you're right, actually, because the cloud packages, you don't need to back them up. So it used to be with the older packages, you would need to physically save them like you would a Word document, when you left them each day. But the cloud packages, there's no need to back them up, so they're safer. There was initial concerns over, I guess, hacking and security. And a lot of the packages, clients will set up a bank feed. So it automatically takes the data from your bank every day and feeds it into the accounting package. And there was concerns that would that mean that there would be banking issues too, but the bank feeds have been now operating for years and there's been no sort of, as far as I'm aware, breaches or security issues. And again, it just means it's more accurate and saves more time for the client because the data appears in their accounting package and they simply just have to confirm what it is. So if you're a business and you're spending a lot on materials, you might just put your £10,000 payment to the supplier to purchases. Then you scroll down, and the next thing is you've paid a phone bill, and the packages can now predict what the items are. So they recognise that British Telecom could be a phone bill. So you might just tick a box and it will say telephone, and it will post that off to your telephone ledger. So yeah, the technology, it's brilliant stuff out there, definitely.
Cool. Very interesting. And I guess next, were you going to sort of start talking about the COVID measures that are, or the financial help that's in place, or if I'm jumping ahead?
On that, very topical.
But quickly before we do jump ahead, we have got a question in.
Oh,
someone's asked. You mentioned Sage 1 is approximately £10 to £15 per month. Is this for multi-users or just one? Would we get our license direct or through Ashdown as our accountant?
Okay, interestingly, with Sage 1, the user issue is no longer a problem. So Sage that you used to have loaded onto your own sort of facility or server, you would need to pay for licenses for extra users. But at the moment with Sage 1, for example, our client can be logged in and we can log in at the same time. So it means we can help them. But yeah, there can be multiple logins. So as far as I know, there's no limit to the number of users.
Nice.
We offer a discount to our clients, so we can help set it up, because we bulk buy licenses, if you like. But yeah, you can either do it through your accountant or you can go direct via their website.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yes, so I don't know if that was what you were going to go on to next, about COVID.
Yeah, I'll cover sort of, obviously we're 12 months in with COVID now.
It's the anniversary.
Yeah, sad, isn't it?
Not really sure if it's something to celebrate, but there we go.
Can you see my slide there?
And it's not coming up at the moment. There we go. Very good.
All good?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, just reset there. So I won't cover all the measures that have been in place for COVID because, you know, as a firm, we were definitely learning as our clients were this time last year. Mm-hmm. And none of us had ever heard the word, well, I'd never heard the word furlough. I think initially a lot of people were calling it furlough.
Oh, really? I remember someone telling me that they'd been put on furlough and I had to Google it because I was like, what?
Yeah, I think I've seen something on Google that as a search word, that became one of the most searched words in the world in that month, especially compared to normal. So yeah, there's been a whole range of support, and as you can see on the screen there, from furloughing for employees, sick pay if they're not on furlough, assistance and time plans for paying your tax, business rates relief. So a lot of businesses have had their rates cut. The self-employed has been quite a topical one more recently, because they've just launched, I think it's the 4th and 5th phases of the grants for the self-employed. And they can now receive money based on their 5th of April 20 tax returns. So it's helped bring a few more people into the area that they can now claim those grants, whereas at one point last year, people that were newly self-employed couldn't.
Okay, so that's now opened up to people that weren't eligible before.
Yeah, so if you set up a company or a business, you know, you might have become a self-employed person in 2019. When COVID hit in March, April 20, you hadn't actually filed a tax return yet.
Yeah.
So they weren't allowing those people to claim any money. And literally, we've seen some of our smaller clients that started up having to rely on universal credit, for example.
Yeah, it's very...
That's hard.
It must have been really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's been tough. I mean, there's an argument as well that the bigger businesses, sort of limited companies, haven't received much either. While they've been able to furlough their staff, the owners of the business often are on quite small PAYE salaries, and that is because really there are tax efficiencies. and all they were able to do was perhaps claim furlough for themselves if they weren't working. But if they'd been a profitable business before, highly profitable, they weren't receiving the same support as some self-employed people were, who were getting up to £2,500 a month. So, but you know what? I think the government did a pretty good job in getting plans in place as quick as they did.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sort of areas we're helping clients with at the moment have been loans, for example. So bounce back loans, again, another term that none of us had really heard, and SBILS loans. So SBILS loans are the coronavirus business loan interruption scheme.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a bit of a mouthful. And those ones you can borrow, I think it's up to £10 million. I haven't seen many people borrow that much. So
that's to help keep a company afloat until they can start trading again, potentially.
Yeah, I think the idea of the loans was to help cover overheads of a business. So a lot of businesses still had to pay their rent, insurance. Yes. So we assisted a few clients with putting together the figures for the applications. That was for the SBILS loans. The bounce back loans, on the other hand, clients could just apply for, tick a couple of boxes to confirm what their normal income was, and the banks would just literally dishing them out quicker than they, within a few days without any questions. So unheard of before.
And are those two loan options still available to businesses? Or?
Funny enough, they are ending this month.
Okay.
So literally we've got a few
week left.
Yeah. If you haven't got your bounce back yet, it is still worth looking into whether your bank website will facilitate you obtaining one. Some clients have been topping them up as well. So for example, the maximum is £50,000 you could get, and that was on the basis that I think your turnover was around 200 or 250,000. Okay. So if you were a small business, say £50,000 a year turnover, you were restricted to how much you could get. So the loan was a percentage of the turnover. But some businesses have found that when they've filed their accounts for the April 20 year end, they'd had a good year, and they can now probably claim a bit more on the bounce back. So there are new loans coming about, and actually I'll just fast forward. So recovery loan scheme, this one will take over from the current loan schemes, and it's really there just to help businesses start trading again, really, especially for the hospitality industry, who really have been decimated. So very little out on this loan scheme yet. I've got a few bits of information written down. It's for growth and investment, and it opens on the 6th of April, but there's still no details out there yet of how you apply. We think it will be through your bank website, and it's got some of the similar traits to the other loan schemes. So no personal guarantees, so it should make it easier for the bank to lend to you. There are quite short repayment terms, though, I believe. So bounce back loans, pretty much you need to pay back within 5 or 6 years. And the SBILS loans, you can't get a 20-year loan term, put it that way. But they should be easier to access than it used to be trying to get a loan from the bank before COVID, put it that way. So we'll have to wait and see. There'll be more news on that coming out in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine.
So in a way, it could also be quite useful for, companies that maybe want to, invest in their company, or, make changes or expand.
100,
if they didn't want to do that before COVID, even if they'd wanted to do that before COVID, you could almost see it as like quite a benefit for those companies that actually feel like now they've got an easier way of being able to take a loan out that they might not have been able to take out previously.
Yeah, sure. I think in the past, a lot of clients, especially if they're not homeowners, would struggle to get loans because the banks always wanted security. So if they didn't have a business premises, for example, there's very little for the bank to secure their loans against. So they then look to you personally. Have you got a house? So these loan schemes, they're enabling those businesses that haven't got the assets behind them, but are probably very profitable and got great scope to employ people. to boost the economy. So I think the government just want the economy to literally bounce back, and that's what this scheme will hopefully help. So yeah, if you can invest in new vans, new IT servers, whatever it might be, to enable yourselves to have more staff to grow, that's what these schemes are for. And I imagine perhaps the loan application may be along the lines of, what do you plan to invest with your money? They're not really for paying back debt, I would say, but I would imagine there will be an element that could allow you to sort of get on top of debts if you've built some up. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how these ones pan out.
So you think there may be some restrictions with this one potentially? Yeah,
I think it's how you put the application together, which we don't really know what that will look like yet. Will all the banks have the same sort of forms to apply with? But yeah, there will be certain criteria. So.
And we do have one question in regards to this as well. That's basically saying, so does this only apply to companies that are VAT registered at the moment?
I think it applies to all businesses, providing I think they've been trading already, so I'm not sure about new businesses, but yeah, it doesn't matter if you're VAT registered or not. And I think the loans start from anything from £25,000 up to £10 million. So obviously the £25,000, yeah, they're definitely aimed at smaller businesses.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Another area on my previous slide actually was this is just encouraging more investment. So from the 1st of April, for every £100 you might spend on new equipment or new capital expenditure, and by that I mean things that you're going to keep and carry on using in your business. So whether it's commercial vehicles, perhaps a new factory, perhaps new machinery, IT equipment, for every £1 you spend, it will be like you've spent £1.30 for when it comes to do your tax return. So I think the slide there, it works out every £1 you spend will save you 25p potentially in tax if it's a company. So
wow.
In the past,
Okay.
Yeah, at the moment the sort of corporate tax rate is 19%. So for every £1 a company invests, it saves them 19p. But this super deduction that your accountant will, put through for you on your tax return will help save you tax. So yeah, they really want you just to invest and grow.
Is there a reason that's only for plant and machinery and investment?
Yeah, it's capital allowances. It's for. So capital allowances are when you buy assets. So
okay.
Yeah, if you're sort of spending more on your phone bill or heating your office more, that's what they just call sort of revenue expenditure, sort of goes through as an expense in the year. But yeah, so the plant and machinery, it's for capital allowances, and yeah, you can see the route they're going. They want you to go out there and buy some big ticket items in the economy, really.
Would you say that's to do with not just obviously COVID, but the whole Brexit scenario as well, and trying to get British businesses to invest more in?
Yeah, do you know, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, obviously, we've had that double whammy this year, haven't we? I've had a lot of clients struggling with Brexit, especially the ones that import and export. So, yeah, I wonder if this would have come in anyway, without COVID. So, yeah, I think it is there to help.
Okay, and we've just had a couple more questions in regard to these, some of these loans. So the first one is, does the recovery loan scheme apply to businesses that have been able to stay open throughout COVID?
Yes, yeah. I believe they're not sort of excluding anyone. I think the only businesses it's not open to is ones that are insolvent. So a business that is really struggling and was struggling before COVID. So that business will probably have lots of debt. So they don't want you taking this loan out to pay off your credit cards, to pay off the mortgage you've got behind with, perhaps pay off VAT arrears. So no, it's pretty much open to all companies that have got a positive future, let's say.
Open to all businesses with a positive future. That sounds nice. Okay. And then the second question that we've got here is making tax digital. Is that going to apply to landlords from April 2023?
Ooh.
Very specific year.
Yeah, that is an interesting one.
I don't know if that information has come from somewhere. There's no other details with that question. So if the person that asked that has, can add to that at all.
My thinking would be being a landlord means you've got investments. You're not necessarily running a business, but from sort of previous reading I've done on this, I think they do require anyone that's filling a tax return in. I would imagine at some point they want people filing figures sooner. But yeah, I can come back to that person if they want to get in touch.
Okay.
My contact details are at the end of the slide. Be happy to look at that for them.
Great, thank you. That's all for now. Just trucking on with lots of we have actually got another question. They've added to that, so it says that it's come from an HMRC webinar.
Oh, okay. I better do some reading on that then.
Yeah. You've learned something new today too.
You know what, it's a difficult one because landlords normally wouldn't have spent too much time writing up their books and records during the year. If they're using an agent, the agent obviously sort of collects the rents in and things. Yes. So I would say landlords might need some actual real assistance with getting their records up to date. They've probably never even used Sage or QuickBooks and had to worry about it. So yeah, I'd say have a chat with your accountant, or we're always happy to give a free consultation and give some advice and quote for helping on this kind of stuff, definitely.
Okay, great. Brilliant.
I think, this is sort of the last page of my slides before I exhaust everyone. And this is just what I call general tips and tools for your business toolbox. And these apply whether there's COVID, Brexit, or the end of the world is going on or not. And a key thing is to say, really, that a business can be very profitable, but cash is king. So if you run out of cash, you're always going to be in trouble. So some of my general tips for any client would be always negotiate with your suppliers. You might be able to get longer payment terms with them, for example. Customer terms as well. I mean, the best thing is if you can get 60-day payment terms with your suppliers, but customer terms, you get them to pay within 7 days, for example. Having that cash enables you to run your business, not spend so much time trying to manage your cash flow. And probably with some businesses, I think enables you to buy things when you need them and invest rather than having to wait till there's money in the bank. So finance options, and I think actually COVID has opened up more financing options with things like the recovery loan scheme as well. So it's worth looking out there for those options. So rather than buy a new asset, especially if it's commercial vehicles, you can perhaps look to finance that through your bank or a leasing company. There's always the interest to weigh up. None of these things come free, but some of these schemes at the moment are very low interest rates. And I think having the money in the bank instead of paying for stuff up front is definitely worthwhile considering.
Cool.
New opportunities. I've been saying to clients, or we've seen lots of clients diversify these last 12 months. And I think it just future-proofs you if this pandemic does carry on and we've got further lockdowns. So, for example, restaurants that have never done takeaway, we've now seen doing takeaway. We've got one client that hasn't been a restaurant for a year now. They stripped out all their tables and chairs and are purely delivery. So, and from what we can tell, they're doing well. I think they've had to invest in their online systems with ordering, delivery drivers, of course, and that kind of thing. But they're saving on waiting staff, and there's no limit to how many people they can cook food for now, whereas before busy times, you were limited by the number of bums on seats or seats you had. So yeah, think of diversifying, keep on marketing, especially.
Oh, we like that one, don't we?
We like that one. And it doesn't always have to cost a lot, does it? I think, online nowadays, there's so many options with social media. Carry on investing.
I was going to say, to add to that, I think a lot of people hear marketing and they sort of think, I'm going to have to spend loads of money. But actually, in a way, going with everything being digital at the moment, because we can't meet up, there's so many low-cost things that you can do, even as a small business, making sure you've got coverage over social media, even small investments with like Google ads, so pay-per-click. So if you invest in that, you're going to come up in top of searches. So there's lots of things that you can do that don't cost the earth as well.
Yeah, and I think things like this today, isn't it? Online events. I do a breakfast club every week still, and we do it on Zoom.
Brilliant. Yeah, just that kind of, there's still a lot of networking opportunities, actually. We're part of the Kent Invictus Chamber of Commerce, and they're still running loads of virtual networking events all the time. So there's still ways to connect with other businesses if you're B2B online, which is great.
Sorry, I've had some IT issues there.
Oh, don't worry. Brilliant. Is there anything else to add at the end of that?
There was just my contact details, really.
Okay, which are also, we have put your LinkedIn details in the Q&A section on the right-hand side. So if people want to connect with you there, they can, I think. Yep, there it is.
Smashing.
So they can connect with you there, and there will be a recording of the webinar available on our website as well after the event. So so if anyone's got any other questions that they want to ask before we go, we've got a few minutes left, so please feel free to ask anything else. Anything else you wanted to add, Mark?
It's a funny one, really, because I think we're now a year into the COVID type situation, let's say. And I think if you are one of those businesses that still needs to stay closed, hopefully we're seeing a lot more open up on the 12th. Perhaps it is worth spending the time to sort of make changes. So whether it is on your bookkeeping packages, make good use of that time. We've seen a lot of clients actually, you can tell their to-do lists have got shorter. They've had a bit of time to invest their time really in sorting things out in the business and perhaps learning some of these packages. Because the more you can do yourself, the more money you can save with not needing your accountants and bookkeepers to do so much work for you. And although that might mean a small loss in revenue for us, everything needs to be efficient nowadays. Everyone needs to make a profit and move forward with the times, really. So use your time well.
Definitely. Great. Oh, that's a nice way to end. So we haven't had any more questions, but I kind of say a massive thank you to everyone that's joined us today. And of course, a really big thanks to Mark for joining us and for all your great advice. I feel like I've learned a lot, definitely.
Good.
Particularly for my husband, who's started his business last year. So always good to have some tips on finance and going digital. And it's great to see that these two worlds are crossing over as well. So finance and technology, I think.
Sure.
So great. Thank you very much, Mark. And thank you to everyone that joined us today.
Lovely.
See you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.